Hello, and welcome to Productivity in Prose, a podcast about making the most of your writing time and honing your craft. Whether you're a seasoned author or a new writer, this podcast offers helpful tips to maximize your writing time, increase your writing productivity, and tackle the sometimes tough aspects of the writer life. Hi, I'm your host, Emily, author of the Xeris Galaxy Saga, among other things, and today's topic is Time Sucks for Writers and how to deal with them. But first, I'd like to give you a quick update about my Kickstarter. If you've been a listener, you'll know that I ran a Kickstarter last month, and it was so much fun. I had actually planned to update you guys a lot more here on the podcast, but running a Kickstarter takes a lot of time and effort and focus. And I found that I just honestly didn't have the time, which is so sad. So unfortunately, I had to let some episodes go, but I'm hoping to be back to posting every Friday as usual. But anyways, I had such a blast, and my readers showed up in just the most incredible ways for this Kickstarter. I was seriously blown away. We funded in just over an hour, I think. I mean, it was just barely an hour at that point. And my goal was $2,000 initially. And I knew that that would get me pretty much where I wanted to be with the books, but there was a lot more that I wanted to do. And that's where stretch goals came in. So we hit so many incredible stretch goals, and we just came in at the very last few, maybe like half an hour to hit our final stretch. Well, I say final. I had ones after that, but there was one that I was really hoping to get, and that was end papers. If you don't know what that is, in most of your hardcover books, there's going to be white pages at the very beginning that attach to the baseboard of the book, and then the first page. Those are called end papers, and I really wanted to make them printed with a pretty design, and we hit that goal, which was $15,000. We actually ended up funding at $15,649, and we had 265 backers, which was seriously just a dream. If you followed me on Instagram at all, you'll know that I had mentioned that my secret goal was to get at least 250 people to back the campaign, and I'd hoped to fund at least at $8,000. Well, obviously, like if there's 250 people, it'd probably be more than that, but those are just kind of like two of my in my mind goals, and we just crushed both of those, which was so amazing. So basically what that means now is that everything kind of goes into production once the money from Kickstarter comes into my account. So I'll be purchasing a lot of the paper goods, the enamel pins, which are going to look so amazing. It just all the things that I can that are mostly stretch goals or just additional things that will come for the Kickstarter. And then I'm basically just waiting on my editor to get me the book back so I can work on my developmental edits to just make Falling Through the Black as awesome as possible. That's the goal, at least. So in the meantime, I'm just busy doing that and also working on another book for a different project. So it's been really fun. I am happy that the Kickstarter is done though, because as much fun as it is, it's just a lot of work and a lot of emotions, right? There's just so much that goes into that. So here I am back on the podcast, and today we're talking about time sucks for writers. And that's kind of a weird way to say it, but basically it's the things that just really pull our time from writing and kind of vie for our attention when really we should probably be spending it writing. The first one is one that you could probably guess on your own, and it's social media. Now, I absolutely love Instagram. I love spending time on there, but I find that more often than not, my focus on social media starts to just suck me in, right? It takes all of my effort to step away from my phone and get back to writing when I should be. So, as vital and crucial as it can be to help me spread the word about my books and to be part of my marketing strategy and all of those different things, there has to be a way for me to manage it, right? So here are some suggestions that I have that I've seen work well in my own life and hopefully will help you avoid that time suck of social media. The first is really as simple as locking your phone. I have found the Forest app to be super helpful. I do believe it's $1.99 in the App Store. I mean, I'm not sponsored by it or anything like that, but I found it to be really helpful. I'm sure that there are other options out there too. Your iPhone actually might even have kind of a setting that will get you to the same situation as locking your phone, but The fun thing about Forest is that you can actually, they basically call it planting trees, which is really fun. So you set a time between, as much as 10 minutes to 2 hours, and you get to choose kind of what plant you want to grow. There's trees, there's bushes, there's flowers, a lot of different things that you can gain more points to purchase new trees. I say purchase, but it's all within the app and it doesn't cost any additional money. And so once you've chosen that time, you actually can have an allow list, which will let you access certain parts of your phone. I found this helpful because there have been times when I've locked my phone and let's say I need to maybe make a call or someone calls me and it's knocked me out, which kind of means that your tree dies or whatever you're growing. And so it just looks really bad. Doesn't really actually do anything. It's just more of an aesthetic thing. You could also just not set any kind of allowances and basically be totally locked out of your phone if that's what you need. But whatever that looks like, start with that. Oh, and a fun side note here is that if you have other friends on the app, like my friend Kristen, who I co-host Exploring the Blank Page with, we both have Forest, and so we can actually connect and plant trees together, which is super fun and also a great way to keep yourself accountable. Another simple but really effective way to keep off social media is to put your phone in another room or maybe even another level of your house. I work in the basement of our house, which it's a very nice finished basement, but it's helpful for me to keep my phone upstairs if I want to stay really focused. A problem with that you might face is that on your computer, you have access to all these things as well. So I suggest if you're writing, if you're using Word or if you're using Scrivener, to put that into composition mode. It's so helpful. I think on Word it's called focus mode, but it's so helpful to just keep you on that document, not looking anywhere else. Another thing that you can do, which is more of a mental thing than anything else, is to make a social media time zone. This basically means maybe it's not smart for you to hop on social media the first thing in the day. I'm basically talking to myself here. I found that I get so sucked into it and then want to think of all the things that I can do to increase my reach or the next reel that I want to create or what photo I'm going to post, all of those different things. But instead, if I kind of lock myself out, this is just mentally here, of getting on my social media at all until I'm done with my writing in the morning, very, very helpful, and it helps to keep me really focused on what I'm working on. And then another thing that you can do, which I highly recommend, is to plan your social media engagement ahead of time. We'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about marketing, but I really encourage you to think ahead to what you're going to do. Now, I am actually not someone who can schedule out all of my posts for my main account, which is Create, Explore, Read. I am such a mood poster, I can't do it. However, I do find that it's really helpful for me to think ahead. So that looks like me taking pictures ahead of time, having a backlog of posts that I can do or reels, and having access to it ahead, basically. Instead of plotting out, I'm going to post this thing on Monday and this thing on Tuesday, I just know that when I'm in the mood, I can hop on, I've already got a photo ready to go, and I can post it with whatever caption feels best to me. For some of you, it might be better to actually plan it out and maybe use Facebook's planning schedule calendar. I love that thing. I use that for work for other jobs that I do, even though I don't use it for myself usually. But check it out. It makes it so easy to post to Instagram and to Facebook, and it just kind of has it all very visually there for you. So if you're someone like me who's very visual, it helps a ton. The next time suck that I think is kind of obvious is procrastination. And I know that that's literally, you're not doing what you should be doing, but oftentimes we don't notice it as wasting time so much as noticing that we just don't want to do the work. But really, I view it as one way that really sucks time from your writing. Now, it's easy to just say, do the work, because honestly, I think that is one of the best answers to the question of, well, what do I do about procrastination? You sit down and you do the job. But that doesn't always feel great in the moment, and sometimes it doesn't stop you from cleaning your house when you know you should be working on your book. So in all reality, sometimes procrastination can actually signal a deeper problem that maybe you're stressed or you're overwhelmed, or as we'll talk about later, you don't know where your story is going, and so you try to find other things to fill in the time that you should be writing. Instead, what I find can be really helpful when you're in a procrastination mood is you either go for it and just dig into that procrastination, Get all of the cleaning out, get all of the, avoiding your story out, and then commit to yourself to go back into the story. Or another alternative is to talk it out with a writing friend. I find this to be one of the best ways for me to get past procrastination, because my friends know me, they know my tendencies, and they are able to remind me of the reason why I write. They're able to remind me that once I get back into the story, it's actually going to be easier to write than I think that it is. It's like a mental block there. And they're also going to be the ones who are encouraging me to keep going, and they'll be the ones to celebrate with me when I get it done. Another massive time suck for writers is marketing. And the hard part here is that marketing is so essential, especially if you're an independently published author. But really, for any author who has a book coming out, you're going to be playing a very heavy marketing game, and trying to balance that with writing is really a challenge. I'm coming off of a heavy season of marketing, and I found my immediate response to be not wanting to go on social media at all. And it's not the people there, because I do want to connect with them, but it's just this overabundance of trying to sell my book, sell my Kickstarter, all of these things in every post that I do, just becoming overwhelmingly overwhelming, if I can say that. So instead, I have a couple of things that I do that help me through those busy marketing times if I unfortunately have to write while I'm also marketing a lot. And the first one is planning out a schedule. And I told you we would come back to this. Again, I am such a mood poster, it's hard to really plan a ton. But if we're talking about marketing posts, I see it a little differently. And that's because planning can mean that you actually are saving yourself more time to write. So for marketing, it might look like, okay, work yourself back from your release date. So for me, Falling Through the Black is going to be releasing wide in November. I believe it's the 12th. So I can look at that date and know that's my final end date. Not of all my marketing, but just that's kind of the culmination of what I will be working up towards. So I can work back maybe a month or 2 months to kind of really plan out, okay, do I have my pre-order link ready to go? Is everything set up and, able for me to share? I'm going to be in a really intense time of marketing in those 6 weeks before my release. But before that, I also need to be able to build up a little towards that release. Even if it's planning out 3 posts or 4 posts a month that are just more focused on marketing toward that book specifically, that can help me to know, okay, it's a Monday, I need to do some type of marketing post, or it's Friday, or whatever schedule works best for you. And then balancing that with other books that you have going on, like to market those as well. Your existing titles is also difficult, but just make yourself a plan that you can follow. If you're like me, maybe that just means reminding yourself of a certain day that you're going to post a marketing post versus, post this specific thing. The second thing is to batch your posts and your content, and I find this to be extremely helpful. Like I said, I love to have a good backlog of pretty photos that I've taken, on a lovely sunny day or whatever. And then secondly, I love to have some reels in the back of my pocket. Even if sometimes I record content that I don't really know how I'm going to use it yet, but I have it there, then I can add the words over the top of it. But when I'm feeling that urge to record a reel, I usually try to do 3 to 4 to 5 at a time if I can help it. And then lastly, honestly, getting people to help you market your book is huge. Now, some of this will come naturally as you gain readers and they really love your work and they're going to just naturally share about it. But you can also have a launch team, a reader team, or an ARC team, or all of those teams, whatever it looks like for you, to have those people help you. And that might be as simple as sharing into a group if you have maybe a Facebook group or an email chain or an Instagram group, and just saying, hey, I just posted this post, would you guys share it? Or, hey, I've got this graphic, would you guys share if you have a chance? Even if it's just sharing in your stories, it can help. Those things can really take the weight off of just putting all the marketing on your shoulders. If you're an independent author, I would say a launch team or a reader crew is really essential. If you're traditionally published, it's going to be a huge bonus to you, but maybe not quite as essential. And while I'm sure there are other things that are going to be there that are going to suck our time. The last one that I thought of today to talk about was not knowing where your story is going. This might seem like a strange one because you're thinking, well, Emily, it means you're writing if you're sitting there not knowing where your story is going. But the problem is if you're not sure what's happening next in your book, you actually aren't being as productive with your time as you could be. I would wager you're sitting there staring at your computer screen thinking, I don't know what to write next. And to me, that is a misuse of your time. Now, I get it. I have spent much time doing that myself. But what I have found to be even better is to really have a plan stepping into that writing time. This is going to look different for every writer because some of you might be plotters, some of you might be pantsers, some of you like me might be plantsers, where you like to plan where you're headed, but you also like some room to figure out what's going on. Now, it depends for me because some of my books, especially cozy mysteries, take a lot more planning and a lot more diligence in just really knowing the timeline. But on some of my other books, I have a lot more freedom to kind of just go with the flow. But either way, knowing what's happening immediately next is, I would think, almost crucial if you're going to be productive with your writing time. So this might look like the night before, thinking about what you're going to write for your next scene, or it might be sitting down to your computer and giving yourself 10 minutes of extra time where you can just sit there and think. Don't be on your phone. Don't be, listening to music if it's distracting to you. Don't be reading through your emails, which I guess would be another time suck I didn't mention yet. Take time to know what's going to happen in your next writing session. Now, something that I like to do is I actually like to take what I call plot walks. I've probably talked about this with you guys before, but maybe not. I really enjoy being out in nature and having the space to think. I actually did that today. As I'm recording this, I think back to a lovely walk I had at a local park and how I was thinking through the plot of a couple of different story ideas that I'm working on. And one of them specifically, I had reached out to a friend because I needed help, and she gave me one little crucial piece that just unlocked the rest of the plot for me. So something like that is really, really helpful. And I would say it kind of serves two purposes. One, you're walking, so you're being healthy, you're getting out, your brain is taking in new sensory things, but then also you're doing a little work, but it kind of doesn't feel like work because it's fun. Another thing that you might want to try doing is to draw it out. Now again, I might be edging a little too close into plotter territory here, but if you are having trouble visualizing where your story's going, or you're just not really sure what has to happen next to get you to the next scene, I will often take a whiteboard and start writing out things. I like to go back to the 3-act structure, very basic, but very helpful for me in just being able to visualize, okay, this is what's just happened. Let's say I've passed my doorway of no return and I have fully entered Act 2. I know that I need to be heading towards that midpoint. So thinking about things that are going to lead me up to that, but are also going to kind of be issues for my main characters, that's going to be the brainstorming that I need to do before I sit down to write those things. And then I would suggest planning out every writing session that you do. Now, I don't mean put it on your calendar. I mean, if you need to, put it on your calendar. But I mean more in the sense of taking time to think, what am I going to accomplish in this writing session? Now, for me, I'm a ghostwriter. I come from those roots. And so I really focus on word count. I sit down thinking I want to get XYZ word count in, and that will mean I'll have felt successful. Other people might look at it through pages. Other people might look at it through time. If you are someone who really likes to take your time and be meticulous about your words, doing it through a time block instead of a word count goal might actually be better for you because it's going to give you that space and that freedom to really let your words blossom. Where for me, I just like to get them out and then I know I'll come back and make them pretty later. And then since I really just thought of it as I was talking through these things, I really do want to focus a little bit on emails as a time suck for us writers. Now, this could also just come more from me as a designer who I have to balance being a writer and being a designer. And that means usually answering quite a few emails for various different reasons, whether that's from my publisher or whether that's from my agent or whether that's from a client. I have to be able to answer all those emails. And I've got to be honest here, I have a bit of a hesitancy when it comes to emails. I put this on my threads recently, but I said sometimes I'll open up an email and read it and think, it's going to take me so long to answer this email, I can't do it right now. And I'll click unread. I know I'm not the only one to do this because a lot of people reply that they do it as well. But one of the things that I've realized that is probably not a healthy thing for me to do, because oftentimes I make up these things in my head as, oh, it's going to take me so long to do this email, I just won't do it. And obviously I can't just not reply to clients. It's not that I don't want to reply to them. It's more of, I don't think I have the time in that moment. So whether that might be true or not, I need to think more in line with what I was talking about with regards to social media and marketing as well. And that is to have email zones for my life. Oftentimes it's not the best for me to open up my email first thing in the morning because I will just want to sit there and answer all these emails. But what I have found to be helpful is to write into my schedule a time to answer emails. And sometimes I have to cap that time. If I say I will answer emails for an hour, I just need to end it at an hour, or I could just keep going. Or maybe I take a day of the week and decide this is going to be the time where I focus on all of the things that are not writing related. So maybe that's scheduling out my posts, maybe that's recording some reels, answering emails, all of those different things. Another thing that I do, which I would not necessarily say is the healthiest, but sometimes I will just pick one night a week and work late. I find it to be so refreshing to just not have any other distractions going on and be able to answer things and emails and messages and whatever that looks like in my own time without the thought of other people replying immediately back. But sometimes that means that I'm working pretty late. And I know that email doesn't come in and wake people up anymore. Thankfully, our phones take care of that. But I have found the scheduling option on email is so handy. It allows me to kind of, I guess you could say, control in a sense when the email arrives. Doesn't mean that I am sending it at midnight if I have to. It just means that maybe it comes in the morning, that type of thing. I don't know. At the end of the day, it probably doesn't really matter, but for me, it helps. And then lastly, vacation reminders are huge. If you need a break, you need a break. And sometimes it's going to be a break that you had to take because you are going on vacation. But other times it might be a break that you need because you just need to catch up and you need people to know that you are going to be out of touch for a certain amount of time. That's a really hard thing to do, and we can't afford to do that all the time, especially if you're self-employed, because there are people who need to hear from you. But it might be something that helps with your mental health and helps you maybe catch up in a sense. So consider using those sparingly, but when you really need them. So hopefully I've talked about things that you found in your own writing life that kind of just suck the time away from your writing, whether that's social media, procrastination, heavy marketing, knowing where your story is going, or emails and other writerly things like that. If I missed one, feel free to reach out and let me know what it is that you struggle with. In the next episode, I'll be talking about ways to trim down a story. This was a listener-submitted question, and I'm really excited to tackle it. Thanks so much for listening, and don't forget to dream big and write boldly. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. If you're looking for more writing inspiration, community, craft tips, and behind-the-scenes content, consider joining the EAH Coalition on Patreon with various levels of free and paid support. You can also connect with me on Instagram at CreateExploreRead and find out more about me, my books, and my design business on my website, eahcreative.com. Productivity in Prose is an EAH Creative production.